So today's video is all about how to create an image such as this from unwanted fabrics and clothes using a very traditional technique that has been used for a long time, and in fact the Egyptians were shown to have some form of hooking fabric through her backing fabric. So basically you're going to learn how to create a piece of rag rug art. Now I'm not going to teach you how to make a rug, but I am going to teach you the techniques you will need to be able to make your own rug or other articles if you wish. So what are you going to need? Well, first of all you're going to need the backing fabric, which we now use Hessian. Obviously when rag rugs were made a long time ago, people would use whatever was to hand, so it might have been sacking, but today it's much easier to get Hessian, which you can usually buy from most fabric shops. And then of course to create your image you will need some fabrics. Now lots of contemporary rag ruggers like clothes like this, which is the t-shirt fabric, because it's quite easy to work with. However, I like to create different textures in my work, so I like to use different types of fabric. And what else will you need? Obviously you'll need a hook. This is the type I use, a latch hook. There are of course different types. And you will need a marker pen for drawing your image on, scissors for cutting up your fabrics, and masking tape to stop the edges of your Hessian fraying. So, where do you start when you want to do your rag rug piece? Starting point is your Hessian, which is your backing fabric. So having decided what size you want your finished piece to be and cut your Hessian to that size, you'll see that the edges tend to fray, which can be quite annoying, and sometimes they can get caught up in your work. So the first thing I do before anything else is to just cover the edges with masking tape, which you can get from, I usually get mine from the pound shop or from decorators, those sort of shops. So just covering the edges just helps to stop them fraying a bit, which can interfere with your work. So having covered your Hessian with masking tape, the next thing you're going to do is draw your image onto the Hessian. Now you will see that as well as my image, I have drawn a frame around about 1.5 inches in. Now this is purely to allow for being able to turn your edges in when your piece is finished. Now you can see my lines are not necessarily particularly straight, so if you have a need to use a ruler, please do. But this is to enable you to be able to turn your edge, your raw edge, and then fold it again so that you can then stitch down your edges at the back when your piece is finished. So having drawn your frame, you then want to draw your image. Now, although when you look in lots of the rag rug books you'll see some very detailed images, I do recommend for your purpose, start with something very simple. So you can see here I've got my fish, so it's just basically a very simple fish shape like that. It's not perfect, but that's fine. So that is the next stage, ready for you to start your rag rug picture.